up creating. There are other settings in here as well, some backup appliance, some general settings here. You can set your host credentials if you want. You can set up some email credentials here, some time information here, log information, those sorts of things. What you essentially want to do once you've got the configuration up and running is set up a backup job. Now these backup jobs are really no different than the backup jobs you're used to working with before in other types of technologies. You create a new backup job and give it a name, identify which of the virtual machines you may want to back up. Maybe it's an entire cluster, or maybe it's just one specific virtual machine. I'll choose VM6 here because I know that's a relatively small virtual machine. Give it a location where we want to back it up to, and then a schedule in which we want to run the backup job. A retention policy for how many of the backups we want to keep here in terms of few or more or many, or some policy custom details down here as far as the number of recent backups to retain, especially those older ones as well. If I click next and finish, that'll actually go about, well, doing that backup job. Now I'm going to pause the recording here for a minute to let this backup job complete. Whenever we get back, we're going to take a look at how the restore process works with these backup jobs. And we're back. As you can see here, I've got the backup job that was created, and in fact I actually went through and did two backup jobs, so you can take a look here at one for VM1 and one also for VM6. This is just information about this one backup job and what the latest one was. If I wanted to back up one of these, I could just select the VMDK file I'm looking for in the virtual machine, and then choose to restore that virtual machine, and then ultimately where I want that virtual machine to go. So choosing next here, we'll select where that destination will end up becoming. Now at this point, instead of actually going through that whole restore process, which can take a pretty extended period of time, what I want to do is disconnect here from the VMware Data Recovery Appliance, because there's one more piece, however. So recognizing that the Data Recovery Appliance creates a disk-to-disk backup that allows you to back up your virtual machines to some file share somewhere and ultimately restore them is great, but sometimes there comes that situation where you do have to actually grab individual files and folders off of those VMs, and in order to be able to do that, there's another tool in here that's required to support that additional functionality, and you have to go through this Explore Media link in order to be able to find it. That is the file level restore client that you can see here under WinFLR. Now let me copy this out of here and put it onto the desktop so I can show you how this works. The WinFLR, or the file restore client, is something that you would actually launch inside of a virtual machine that you've backed up. And what it does is from within that virtual machine, it provides access to previously backed up files from that virtual machine. What you would do here is enter in the IP address or name of that virtual recovery appliance that's up and functioning, and it would provide access to you to see those specific files and folders that were backed up onto that disk location somewhere that is managed by the recovery appliance. In advanced mode, you can additionally restore files that were previously backed up from either this or any other virtual machine into this location. So the restore client here, the file restore client, somewhat different than what you're used to thinking of when you think of a unified backup solution. So you have the data recovery plugin that handles the backup and restore functions, and then this file level restore client that does these extra little functions for getting additional files and folders out of existing backups. Again, two-part solution for providing this. It's available from VMware. There are third-party solutions that sort of integrate all of these into a unified whole. So what have we talked about in this nugget? We've talked about the backup and restore process for virtual machines, and really from a more approach-based perspective, what are the different types of solutions you might use based off of the different needs you have for your vSphere implementation? We really talked about the different locations in terms of perspective in which backups can be sourced from in a virtual environment. You can go today with your existing backup solution and plug an agent right into that virtual machine and continue backing up like you always have. But what you're not going to get is that point-in-time backup that you would get from a solution like the VMware Data Recovery and its appliance. We talked about how we can work with virtual machine snapshots and how they are a useful tool for protecting yourself from doing something stupid. They're not that great a solution for backups. We also spent just a little bit of time with the two halves of the VMware Data Recovery appliance and plugin, as well as that file level restore additional piece that's required when you want to dig into those VMDK files to grab additional files.